Ladies, gentlemen, and destined ones of all ages, welcome to the beginning of your westward journey. While the difficulty of Black Myth Wukong definitely scales up as you go, with most of the actual hard parts happening a bit further on into the game, this game can be a bit tough in the early stages too if you struggle to adapt to this game in particular, or if you struggle with the concept of things being optional. So today we're going to go over a number of both tips to just improve your gameplay and hopefully adjust to this game a little bit quicker, but also of course specific locations that are useful to be aware of as well. But for the most part, we'll be focusing on Chapter 1, which is a bit more linear, for sure, and hopefully we can get you set off on the right foot upon your journey to the west. First up though, for people who are struggling to even start the game to begin with, there is a somewhat prevalent bug for PC users that crashes the game on the shader compilation screen that it does on the first time that you launch the game. It claims that you ran out of video memory, and for most people that is actually incorrect. That's not what's happening. If you are running into this problem and it is repeatedly crashing before you can open the game, or if you know someone who is having this problem, the solution is quite simple. Go to the game on Steam, click on Properties, go to your local files, then right-click the b1.exe within this folder, Properties on this, Compatibility, and then enter compatibility mode with Windows 8 specifically. I don't know why this fixes it, and this seems to only be a problem on first game launch until the shader compilation completes, but this is the fix for it, and I had this problem myself, so I can confirm this is what made it work. Second up then, moving past that, let's talk about general combat in Black Myth Wukong. Most of the flow of combat will be based off of two main things: your focus meter and your spell cooldowns. You unlock a bit more mechanics for combat later on, of course, but these are the main considerations to start with. Your focus meter is spent on your heavy attacks to increase their range of impact and the amount of damage and stagger that they build up. So like many Souls-like games, your heavy attacks are important to actually hit when openings are available for them. At the start of the game, you will only have one focus charge, but you will have seen in the prologue that you can have many more than that. You build up focus either by holding down the heavy attack button to prep a heavy attack to release at the end of the charge. If you undo this charge before releasing the attack, you'll just lose what you built up, or instead you can build it up naturally by hitting enemies with light attacks, which will fill the bar in the bottom right of your screen until it tips over into a focus point. The basic flow of combat is interweaving your light attacks to build up these focus points, then spending the focus points on heavy attacks, and using your spells, generally on cooldown, if they provide a bonus in the situation, though some are best saved for specific moments within fights. Past that then, let's talk about equipment in the game. Generally speaking, upgrades to your wearable gear are few and far between in Black Myth Wukong compared to its general size and similar games of the genre. They are out there, but they aren't common or plentiful necessarily, so don't expect to turn every corner and find the Master Sword within 10 minutes of actual gameplay. That said, once you reach this specific shrine in the first chapter, the Forest of Wolves, Guan Yin Temple Shrine, you unlock the ability to craft the Pilgrim set of armor at the shrine, every individual piece of it. This is rushable before any boss once you've unlocked the Immobilize spell at least, and specifically from the first shrine after that, if you head forwards and right, you'll find a really nasty Stonehead Monk boss. This guy is essentially the Tree Sentinel of Black Myth Wukong. He is way stronger than anything else that is nearby, and he is completely optional, skippable, so you can return to him later, because you can just run past him and get through the cave behind him to get to the next area. Defeat the guards through here, and the door to the actual village will open, bringing you to this shrine that unlocks armor crafting and your first major upgrade as a result. This is a good tip in its own right though, which is that fog walls or things of that nature aren't really a thing in this game unless you're against a very specifically important story boss. So any boss that isn't literally blocking your progression physically can be avoided like this and returned to when you are feeling strong enough to actually take them on. That said, this first craftable armor can be missable if you don't notice the new pop-up, but generally if you have been picking stuff up until this point, you will have the materials to craft this full set, and this is actually fantastic to get as soon as you can. The base starter armor set and even the special deluxe edition set 2 have less raw defense than this craftable armor set, so it is an upgrade on that side of things no matter what you got. But even past that, it has a bunch of unique effects on it for each gear piece too, with the set as a whole being focused around sprinting, letting you heal while sprinting, giving you increased damage the longer that you sprint before attacking, making you sprint significantly faster, and importantly, this has ways of synergizing with your skill tree too. So put simply, this starter set sort of pushes you towards a specific beginner build for the game that you can get really good with if you actually lean into it. So we'll get into that as we explain more of the systems. Next up then is your skill tree, and it is pretty vast within this game. An extremely deep path of upgrades that will take you through your entire journey, mostly split between your actual character attributes and your staff stances, with tons of different styles or ways of playing to dig into with your own choices made through here, and these can either work together within each other and synergize between different paths, or you can choose to focus directly on whatever speaks to you most, with the only real limiting factor being that some of the upgrades have a level requirement before you can start unlocking them, so you do need to have reached a certain level of base power without having it. That said, there are various paths you can go down here into veer into different archetypes. So let's first talk about some upgrades worth getting no matter what your ideal playstyle eventually is going to be. Then we can dive into some of the more interesting options to strive for more long term. The first one that I heavily recommend is Resolute Counterflow. This makes it so when you do a focus consuming heavy attack out of a light attack combo, so heavy attack during lights, it will essentially act as a parry if you time it just right, just as an attack is about to hit you. This will negate all incoming damage of that attack and do bonus stagger damage as a result, and past that there is a whole path of the actual staff stance tree here that you can build down to both make this parry itself stronger and to build power after doing one too, doing things like skipping light attack combo parts to get to later parts of the combo after you hit one of these. The other stances here are unlocked by level, and I generally recommend at least unlocking the base stances when they are available. Pillar stance, for example, itself lets you avoid ground targeted attacks just by letting you sit on the staff while charging your heavy, so that in itself is great to have even if the pillar stance fighting style doesn't necessarily appeal to you. Then we have your foundation tree, and that is where more of the quote-unquote boring stuff is, but boring stuff tends to be the statistical advantages that really make a difference in a fight. Here you can find things like increases to maximum health and stamina is honestly very important in this game to manage, so that's actually very good to know about, because if you attack while you're on low stamina, you will do less damage, you will apply less stagger, your attack animations will be different and less impactful, so you should actually take breaks based around your stamina bar. But then you also have a whole stamina upgrade tree as well in here, and earlier I mentioned that there are things to look forward to deeper in the tree. Well, the middle upgrade of the stamina tree specifically lets you continue light attack combos even with dodges in between them. So you can do something like light attack, dodge, light attack combo finisher without losing your chain in the middle and having to restart. And this is really important both because light attack combo finisher does a lot of damage, a lot of stagger, and a lot of focus buildup on its own, but also because again you can purposefully build into the light attack combo finisher through other parts of the skill tree if you want to focus around that style of gameplay, flowing sort of like water. That said, the other main thing to consider is that you want to put 3 points into the staff stances section early on at the minimum, because as you can see on the left here, there are thresholds that unlock bonus focus points. 3 points spent here unlocks a second focus point, 10 points spent here unlocks a third focus point, and 20 points unlocks a final fourth focus point, like you have in the prologue section, which is important to note because again, more focus points used on a heavy attack means more damage, more stagger, just really, really good. As for building specific ways, most of that is relegated to the staff stances, as each stance has its own moveset to it and ways of consuming focus and building around charged attacks, but it can also just be as simple as earlier we mentioned the sprint attack equipment set that you can get very early on. Well, there are things like Force Unbound for the smash stance tree that lets you sprint while you're charging heavy attacks. You can use this with the attack power builds while sprinting and sprint speed part of the armor set itself to create a very clear hit and run playstyle where you charge your heavy attacks running around while it charges, then dive in and hit them with it, and then continue and repeat that, running around, charging these attacks, getting out before any damage comes in for a really easy, powerful hit and run sort of playstyle. Easy mode unlocked, simple as that. It should also be mentioned that the skill tree can actually be reset, so you are not locked into your choices, not at all. It's very easy to actually do just in the menu itself. That said, to also mention it, the same self-advancement points are also used to upgrade your spells, and these can have wildly massive value. The first one that you get is Immobilize, which as you may imagine is exceptional for bosses, just giving you moments to attack or heal, whatever you really need, and upgrading this can have a marked improvement on boss fights specifically. The only issue I'd be wary of with upgrading this early on over your general attacks or things like that is while it is very powerful while active, the cooldown is around 50 seconds, which is quite long. So if you build too much into this, you'll be weaker in the moments between those 50-second bursts, but it is definitely a fun alternative way to play once again. Aside from that, just a couple more specific locational things to help out, especially early on. When you reach the Forest of Wolves outside the Forest Temple Shrine, when you are turned into a cicada, along the rightward path right beside you will be what is arguably the hardest boss of Chapter 1, at least if you take it too early. Instead, you can do a nearby optional boss just up ahead by following the torches over the hill like so, and this is the leader of the Wolfmen in this area. This guy is actually optional, but once you defeat it, two things will happen. The first is you unlock a new transformation spell by interacting with his weapon. The second spell that you currently will even have access to in the game, so it's obviously important to get this. This turns you into the Wolf Chief, gives you the spinning double flame glaive that he has, and gives you essentially a bonus health bar and unique moveset. You turn into him, it lasts for a short duration, or until you run out of the health bar or might bar of the transformation, then you turn back into your regular monkey form at whatever health you had before. You can use this to build up your sort of bar on the bottom right, which instead of spending focus points, just once it's filled, is filled, and then you can spam the focus attack here. This is just an incredible extra transformation spell for getting a ton of extra aggression early in a more difficult fight, or just for the second health bar of safety basically that you can trigger if you're otherwise about to die. That said, because this boss is optional, that means this power is optional. You can do the rest rest of the bosses in the level without the spell. I generally, however, would recommend you do this guy first because he is easier than they are, and the spell that you get as a reward for this makes everything else way easier as well. The other thing that you get when he dies is access to the bell that is located behind him, and you do want to interact with this. There will be 2 more bells, more along the general proper progression path of this level. This is the only one that's sort of off the path. This is the main missable one, but if you get all 3 of the bells in the chapter, then you will unlock a secret path to an extra secret area with a hidden boss before the end of the chapter. On which note, there is a waterfall in chapter 1 that looks incredibly suspicious, I know, and trust me, it is suspicious, but don't get too lost in trying to figure out immediately, because this is actually somewhat of a puzzle that is unlocked after defeating a king and some princes later on in chapter 2, so maybe remember that for later on. That pretty much does it for your early gameplay tips then, how to interpret the unique combat flow of the game, the extensive skill tree options, and importantly an armor set and build concept to go around it for you to be powerful early in the game, and a relatively safe way of playing too, if that's the type of thing you're after. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you out on your continued westward journey. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.